Thank you so much for giving me chance, sir. I hope I'm audible, sir.
Yes, you are.
Uh, yeah, there are indicators, sir, like sharing amongst the teachers of various subjects in a class. I have been, insisting on this factor that something happens in the Hindi teachers class should be shared without name, without taking the name of the child, that this incident has happened, so that once this child actually gets into the real trouble, these indicators should be able to help us identifying this problem at the very grassroots level, sir, very initial level. And accordingly, the level mentor or the class teacher as such should be shared these things by the teachers, and then accordingly we should refer the child to the counselor, and subsequently maintaining the confidentiality and other factors, and then how the documentation has to be done. These things can be worked upon for the documentation part, like making it very formal, sir, but informally what the other speakers have said, this is the connect between the teacher and then the child. Whether as a teacher, as a class teacher, I know my entire class or not, that is very much required, sir. If not only the child, sir, whether I know the child's tutor or not, who is teaching him at home, and no, that is the unlearning taking place at home, and the teacher of ninth class teaching all the subjects. I don't understand how a teacher can teach all the subjects, including Hindi, English, math, science, social studies. I think the society is also befooling the parents that एक teacher आप employ कर लीजिए, and he can sit with the child, that is okay. But then how he teaching the child, and whether he is building up that image of the teacher, नहीं उसने सही पढ़ाया उसने गलत पढ़ाया है. And then the tuition classes as such, like they go for the coachings, the teacher at the
Mm.
coaching class teaching child that आपके टीचर ने अच्छा नहीं पढ़ाया है. And then the
Sure.
image building of the teacher in in front of the child, and what kind of trauma the child would have कि मैं अब तक तो गलत teacher से पढ़ रहा था. And then the child coming back to the class, and then not trying to clarify the doubts, and he's thinking that मैं tuition class पे जाऊंगा and study there. And once he goes to the tuition class, the tuition teacher builds up the negative image
So
of the teacher,
there's
and then
a yeah. So there's a conflict between what is happening in studying in school and
yes,
what is happening in.
he nowhere, sir. He nowhere that way. So my first and foremost requirement would be to ask the teacher that look for the signs at the very initial stage and know your child well. If you know his, his attributes, his behavior, his tutor, his parents, then what kind of, the parents are there, what kind of work they have, so whether they give time to the child or not. And also these days we have to have the digital imprints of the children also, sir, that where and what kind of involvement the children beyond the school hours they have. This is very much required for us to evaluate.
So I think one of the things that you've said very rightly in the end is that, and I want to pick it up slightly, that the impact of social media on especially on senior students is also very heavy. So if we track as schools, if we can figure out a way to track the social presence, the digital presence of our students, we may get a lot of indicators. I'm very sure a lot of you would have read this news how in Delhi, a medical school student actually committed suicide. There have been cases during the pandemic when school students, very young students, have committed suicide. I was sitting with one of the principals in her office when she got a phone that there were two twin students. One of them used to study in her school, and one of them studied in some other school. The दूसरे school में जो बच्चा था, he was in class 12, and he committed suicide. Now the big question is, we in our schools do not know which student has or is in the process of developing a suicidal tendency because of whatever reason. Because they go, let's face it, the self-esteem of people have gone down. When a child comes to class 10th and he's sitting in the class and he doesn't even remember 8th class ka material and he's being taught, isn't it obvious that he will feel dumb? यार मुझे तो ये भी नहीं आता, and the teacher is assuming कि मुझे ये आता. So there is a huge question mark that may be arising in the mind of our students in terms of their own self-esteem and in their own self-confidence, now we don't know that. So because of that, and because of the pressure at home, that तुझे तो 99% लाना ही है, no matter what, because I can't afford the foreign education for you, and I can't afford the private education, so you have to get into a central university. We can't afford anything else. So he doesn't know how to tackle that conflict in his life. So that conflict is real. What are we doing, or how can we make sure that we know which student is going to end up into trouble or is showing the tendency? I think that's a very big question.